Let me tell you this. The older you do get, the more rules are gonna try to get you to follow. You just gotta keep living, man. Livin.
Warriors Embracing the Hustle. A podcast that challenges your viewpoints and mental willingness. Here's your host, Jake Rarrett.
All right, guys, thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Warriors Embracing the Hustle. This week I have a musician on from my home state, and actually my home city as well, but we never had the chance to meet each other until lately. I just sat down with him and interviewed him this week over the phone for you guys, so you could learn a little bit more about him, hear about his up-and-coming album, check him out, and hope you guys enjoy this interview. But before we get started, I just want to share a couple of experiences that I had in this past week that were very, very inspiring and gave me a lot of hope for myself and just gave me a lot of, happiness and euphoria inside myself. The first one is I went to the Drake concert, Drake and Migos, at the Staples Center, which for you guys who don't know, the Staples Center is one of the best venues in the whole nation for anything, concerts, sporting events, different things like that. So it was truly a blessing to just be inside the buildings. But then after that, it was seeing my favorite artist, Drake. I even got his album right up here. But just to see him live and the energy that he brings to the stadium, and the production was crazy. He had like floating Ferraris, these drapes that would come down over the concert and would like play messages on them, and the whole stage was like light up, and it had a bunch of different like designs, and it would play like a TV almost while he was dancing on it. It was really cool. It was probably the best concert of my life. Actually, it was definitely the best concert of my life by far. And I just want to share that with you guys. It was truly amazing just to be in the presence of that. And he's truly a great performer. One of the good things about being out here in LA is not only the rapper himself, but the guest he brings on. Whenever there's a musical artist here in LA performing either at the Staples Center, Hollywood Bowl, Rose Bowl, different things like that, the openers that they bring on or the people that they come on to feature is crazy. Like, they're not even on the ticket. They're just people out here who are musical artists and different things like that. And they bring them onto the stage and do like a little feature with them. And that night it was Tyga, who some of you guys may know. He's a rapper as well. And then Chris Brown, who is a hip-hop and R&B singer, came out. And Drake and Chris Brown have kind of had a little beef for the past 10 years. They've been, ever since the Rihanna thing, Drake's really close with Rihanna. So he would take her side. But after 10 years, they settled their beef on the stage, and they performed together. It was truly beautiful. So I'm glad that I witnessed that. Another thing is the night after I went, he had 3 sold-out concerts at the Staples Center. The night after I went, the next night, he had LeBron James come on to the stage. And that's just LA being LA, baby. You got a performer, and then you got the best professional athlete around the world performing together. It was truly crazy to see the videos. I wish I would have been there, but I had a crazy good experience the first night, so I can't complain about that at all. So I just want to share that a little bit with you guys. I hope if you guys have the chance to one day go see Drake or Migos or Chris Brown or Tyga, I hope you take the chance and go see them, because they're great performers, and it was a great night, great atmosphere. Literally every single song, even the slow songs, people were on their feet singing along. So I hope you guys go check that out, and I just wanted to share that with you a little bit. But now to our guest today. Like I said earlier, his name is Jordan Burgett. He is a musical artist out of Cedar Rapids, Iowa. He just dropped his first big album called Pink Palace Nights. We go in depth of every single song, what the story behind the album is, and how this music, or how his past experiences affected this music and formed it, and made him into the person he is today. And after talking to him for an hour and a half or so, I realized how intellectual he was, how great he was with words and describing and telling stories. And I'm sure you guys will hear that as well. And I think that's what makes him such a great music artist. He can put his emotion, he can be vulnerable, he can put all of that out there into the music, which brings so much emotion and so much energy that some people can't bring to the table because they're not vulnerable enough to let their emotions out and like use it as a therapy. And like he said, you'll listen and find some of these things out, but I just want to touch on a couple things that he said that were truly beautiful. The first thing that he kind of talked about was how he was feeling really down, and there was a certain situation that happened that you can hear about, but there was a certain situation that happened that brought him down, and he was at his lowest of low. And at that point, he had nowhere else to go but up. So he used it as a building block. He used it as like an energy against him that he had to fight to get stronger. And it's a pretty crazy story. I hope you guys enjoy it. Here's the interview, Jordan Burgett.
Hello. All right, Jordan, before we get started here, I just want to thank you for coming on my podcast today. It was really nice of you to take the time out of your day to come on my podcast.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you for having me, man.
Yeah, no problem at all. So to get started off here, I just want to kind of let everybody know who you are. If you just want to introduce yourself, kind of where you're from and what you do, we'll start at that.
For sure. Well, yeah, I'm Jordan Burgett. I'm born and raised in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. I'm still out of Iowa right now. I make music, I sing, and I rap. And I mean, that's kind of my thing. That's what I do.
Hell yeah. So that's awesome that you're from Cedar Rapids, Iowa. For most people know, but for those who don't, that is my hometown as well. So it's great to see young local artists putting in the time and effort just to make a way, man. That's great. So from going off of that, you talked about your music career and what you like to do. At what age did you start creating music?
I was 15 when I wrote my first song. It was all inspired by, at the time in my life, I was like very suicidal, and I had no other outlets. My mom tried to give me a counselor at some point, and I feel like sometimes it's a little bit hard to be, vulnerable with a stranger. So I looked kind of internally, and my music was a product of that. So I used it kind of to get out of that place when I was 15. And then after that, when I'd always kind of been dark in my thoughts, but after that, it more morphed into something that, I became passionate about.
Right, exactly. I feel the same with this podcast, man. It's nice to just kind of speak your mind, and just let not that you're putting it out for everybody else, but sometimes you're putting it out for yourself just to get it out. So that's great, man. Going on from there, were you always into like rapping or hip hop genre, or were you into other different music genres? How did that all start off?
I mean, music has been a big thing like in my life. So basically my mom, she had me when she was 16. So, I mean, she was a teenager in the 90s. So it was like, that was when hip hop, and it's, the biggest genre in like the world now, but that was
right.
when you had Pac and Big and Pun and all these different influences, so when I was a baby, that was stuff that I was listening to. But my mother actually was going to school, and she went to college and finished and got her degree and things. So a lot of times when she was at school or at work, I'd be with my great-grandmother, my great-aunts, my grandmother, my grandfather, and I'd be, watching like the Temptations movie or listening to, original rhythm and blues and things like that. So, rap, like, it was not something that like I didn't know, you know what I'm saying, really get into music. I just always had a love for it. And I was exposed to so many different genres and things like that when I was younger that it wasn't like if I was ever going to get into music, I was going to rap. Like I played a couple instruments in school and shit like that. So I cussed. But
no worries, dude. Speak your mind.
Yeah, I like to keep it real. But yeah, no, I was exposed to so many different types of music as a child that Rap was just another one. I definitely gravitated to it more because, you know, there was so much vocabulary required. There were so many ways you could just be very thorough about telling a story that I think inevitably with what I was going through in my life at that time, I was going to go into rap. You know what I'm saying?
Right, exactly, man. That's beautiful. So you talked a little bit kind of about like being around different family members who listen to different type of music, but who were some of your early inspirations? Like people you listened to where you're like, man, this is what I want to do, you know?
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. I feel like when it came to music at first, it's weird. When I first started rapping, I did not like listening to other people's music because at the time, you know, when I was 15, it was 2011, 2012. I remember that was the year that, like, you know, everything kind of kicked off the school year.
Right.
There was so many, like, kind of people getting into it. Things were sounding so similar that I was like, I didn't really want to get caught in that wave. But
Right,
I was
exactly.
inspired by, you know, artists like Kendrick Lamar, or Eminem, or J. Cole. Drake was a big one too, where I felt like a lot of they put their vulnerability on the track, and because I was so vulnerable on the track, I could relate to them in that way, where I was just putting everything, you know, on it. I was leaving everything on the record. So that was kind of influenced me and inspired me to still take that direction, you know.
Yeah, exactly, man. I love all those artists as well. So it's great to hear that they're some of your inspirations, man. And going off of that, you talked a little bit about how you started making music at 15. What would you say the first song that you put out that you were like, man, this could be a hit? Like, what was the first song where you thought like this was actually some of your greatest work?
Well, it's tough because, like I said, it changed more like after I was 15. I had a lot of phases. I didn't take music seriously until about 2016, 2017.
Okay.
I'm 22 now, but after I got out of that place in my life where I was like, you know, I could kind of conquer or deal with these darker thoughts, you know, music kind of changed, and then I got frustrated with it at one point. I remember my sophomore year of high school, I was writing a lot, but then junior year, senior year, I didn't do anything. I dropped a single senior year out of nowhere. Then I tried going to community college for a little bit, and, you know, kind of listening to, like, my family's perspectives on, you know, what I should do with my life. Music, it was always like in my soul, and I loved it, and it was what I knew I was, you know, made for and what I'm here for. But there were so many different, and, you know, coming from Cedar Rapids, like a lot of people that are out in LA or New York or Florida, wherever, like there's more acceptance to eclectic things and, like, you know, things that are different. That's like what people want around there. But in Cedar Rapids, like, you get outed. People don't like things that are different typically, you know, and there's kind of a change now. But yeah, so I wasn't taking music seriously, and then I connected with one of my producers, the Cubist, and he sent me 2 beats the first night that we met, and one of those beats was for a track I named Mutta Wolf. Mutta stands for Manifested Under Dope Attire. We filmed the video out in Chicago in December of 2017, and then I dropped the video in December on the 27th. And it was like an hour or two before I went to work, and my buddy who had recorded it, and we edited it together. We went to Chicago for one day, shot for like 8 hours, and then came back with the footage, edited it. And on the 27th, I'm like, bro, I feel like this video could really blow up. And you know, I was thinking blow up at the time was like 10,000 views, and you know what I'm saying? Like some number I hadn't seen yet before. And within 5 hours, it already had 6,000 views. So I was at work, I was serving at the time, and I had my phone on the charger, so I didn't have it in my pocket. I couldn't feel any notifications or anything. And I go to check it after the rush, and I had like, I don't know, I scrolled through my phone probably 10 times and I just seen a text message from my dad, and I open it up, and he's like, 6,000 views in 5 hours. Rumble, young man, rumble. And I went to Facebook where the video was blowing up, and it was just doing numbers. And I was like, wow, like, what is going on? So within 2 days, it had 14,000 views, and by the end of the month, it had 65,000. So
Nice.
I had a conversation with my engineer and the Cubist, and you know, he was basically like, if you're going to take it seriously, you might as well do it now. And that was like the first single. When I put it out and I got all that attention, I knew before that I had some gift that like a lot of people didn't have, but it wasn't until then that like I was like, okay, it's time to turn up, you know. And that was the single, the song that I felt like I put out some great work, and it needed to be consistent at that point, you know.
Right, exactly. And that's actually the first song that I ever listened to of yours that put me on you,
wow.
man. Yeah, so that's pretty crazy, but it was like you said, man, I think not only were the lyrics good, but the beat behind it too. Your producer did a good job of bringing it all together, you know. So I love that song, and that was one of my first experiences listening to you, man. All right, so moving on from that, we'll go into your new album here now. You have a new album. The title is called Pink Palace Nights, correct?
Yes, sir.
And I listened to the album a couple times through, picked apart the lyrics, and I have my kind of perspective on where it came from and like different things like that. But if you could just kind of answer these questions with like if you were talking to someone who didn't listen to it, and kind of explain the project to someone who hasn't necessarily listened to it yet. So the first question I have here is, where did the name of the album come from?
Yeah, so basically when I was 19 back in 2015, I met a girl downtown Iowa City. I had a fake ID at the time. I was out there with my boys, Devin and Mohammed. We call him Mo. And this girl lived in the Pink Palace. The Pink Palace is an apartment complex in Iowa City. And the title, it's so funny, and I love it because when I had the idea for it, I'm like, I'm going to be so misleading on this shit. Because when you walk into the building or when you see it, it's not this mythological castle, this amazing apartment building. No, it's a dingy apartment building. The carpets are stained in the hallways. The cameras don't work. Like, but the name comes from, you know, and I know we're going to get into this, so I want to allow you to answer the next question, but it was inspired from that building and the experiences that happened in that building.
Right, exactly. And kind of, so with this album, you kind of started on talking about it a little bit, but it's more of a story, or is it a collection of different sounds?
Yeah, so essentially, and to touch on the name too, so I'm very, very story driven in a lot of my songs. It is a story concept album. Basically, in 12 tracks, I try to retell the duration of the relationship and the pivotal moments that happen throughout the relationship and how they affect me and change me at the time. I'd never been in love before. And so also the palace is also a symbol. The Pink Palace is also a symbol for the woman's anatomy and the paradise that a young man can find in that. So the story concept, you know, you listen to the project, each track takes you deeper down the rabbit hole. And each skit, because, you know, I brought back that element, and I wanted to do that because a lot of my influences are either 90s rappers or, you know, people from the early 2000s or people who are inspired by them and their styles. And I feel like skits are a great way, if they're not overdone, to help guide this cohesive, you know, piece of work. So right. Pink Palace Nights is definitely, it's a story through and through. And, you know, it's that story. I don't know. Do you want me to kind of go into detail of,
Yeah, well, as much as you want to share on that story, man. So it's totally up to you. But the thing is too is so like I said, if you could just answer the question like someone who hasn't heard the sound before. So if you want to kind of,
Yeah.
I know you released an Instagram post and it talks a lot about it on the album, but it's just kind of want to explain to people what gave you the inspiration behind writing this music and how it persuaded or how it moved you to this point.
Yeah, yeah. So definitely, so Pink Palace Nights, if you look at the track list, it starts at Eden. Eden, I mean, if you've been, exposed to Christianity at all, Eden was, something that the Bible talks about, a paradise on earth. And essentially Adam was first, after all of God's other creations, he created man. And then from Adam came Eve. So in Eden, the first track, there's a bar in Iowa City called Eden. We actually shot a music video in.
Right.
And I use that analogy, like the club is basically like a young man's paradise. When you have a fake ID the first time you're exposed to that world, because you've already been given the knowledge of this planet, you're already jaded, kind of, you already have these perspectives about things. This club is like a paradise. So Eden, throughout the project, that's like 19-year-old me being introduced into this world. And after that, and throughout the track, you hear me make references to the Garden of Eden and different lyrics and things like that. But it's turning the club into this paradise. And from there, it transitions to Parking Lot Pimpin'. Parking Lot Pimpin', is basically when you leave the club, you're outside trying to figure out plans or talk to girls or whatever, figure out what's the next move.
Right.
So leaving the club, you hear it at the end of Eden, the transition, the crowd noise to outside. And that's when I meet my ex-girlfriend. And when I met her, I had a vision of her spoon-feeding our child. So something in me told me you have to approach her. And you hear those sounds and things in the track. And, basically after I meet her, every track after that is our experiences from a night at Giovanni's being the first date. Giovanni's was a restaurant in Iowa City. And that was where our first date was. And then Swerve being the track about me acquiring my new car because I was driving a 2002 Buick Century at the time that was not going to make it back and forth from Cedar Rapids to Iowa City. So I went to the dealership and I got a Pontiac G6, and that's me retelling that. But it goes in ways where each track, if you listen to the production, each track has a different sound, but the story is what makes it cohesive. Also,
right.
I go with the same producer the entire project, and we could talk a little bit more about that. But the story gets pressed on by, not so much the production, but with the content that's actually being put out. And then we transition further and further in the project, either, my emotions of being in love with her, then how the actual Pink Palace and the things that go on in that building in their apartment, to then things start to get darker. Basically, the big point in our relationship where everything went to shit was I caught her leaving the apartment with her ex-boyfriend, the guy that she told me to never worry about. I got an inclination, and my cousin was like, Jay, we need to pull up. It sounds weird. So we got into my aunt's all-black Jeep Wrangler, sat in the back of the parking lot, and basically I saw all these things that I did not, the worst possible, scenario, it came true in front of my eyes. And that affects a person's psyche, trauma, you know what I'm saying? And
right,
so
exactly.
The track, The Chase, goes further into that and what I do when I have that situation happen, you know what I'm saying? My actions from there. A part of me that I did not know existed before gets revealed. And then the last two tracks of the album, Equivalent Exchange and Terra, are basically the me falling into the quote unquote sunken place. And then the consciousness is merging. The old me and the newer me, or the part of me I didn't know, becoming one. And this young boy who was 19 is now having to become a man from his trauma And it's like, basically, what decision will you make? Are you going to still be the pure essence of like what people know who you were and who you thought you were? Or are you going to become a part of the world? And inevitably, I feel like we all do in some way, shape, or form, just because, you know, we're citizens of this time and, you know, in this planet. But, you know, it's me basically on the last track. And the last track is called Terra. The consciousness is merging. And I wanted to do a thing where we started in Eden, and now that we're out of the garden, we transition eventually to this real earth, to Terra. And Terra is the Latin word for earth, or this planet, you know what I'm saying? So
Right.
that, and quick synopsis, that's what the album is.
Right, man. Dude, you're very intellectual, man. I like it a lot how you explain, because the thing that makes music so good is when you can explain your emotions and your feelings in a certain way that you pick up on, but then also other people have different perspectives on the way that they perceive it. So it's nice to hear your perspective on what each song means, you know, because I've listened to it myself, and I've definitely had some of those same feelings or emotions that you just talked about, but at the same time, like, it's good to hear it coming from you. You know what I mean? The person who created this piece of work. So you mentioned it a little bit in that story about how you stuck with the same producer. Who was that producer, and why did you stick with that producer?
Man, shout out to my cousin Doc. One of the most talented individuals I've ever met in my life. Doc Ravi is his name, and Doc and I, we had not met our whole lives until 6th grade. And the craziest thing is that, you know, when it comes to blood, you don't get to choose your family. But a lot of people don't know. I mean, I call Doc my cousin. He is my cousin. That's my family. But my uncle and his mom were dating, and they dated for a long time. And every summer for a while, Doc would come down to Iowa. And the first time I met Doc, we were going to band camp together. He was playing the saxophone, and I was in percussion. And Doc had been producing beats since we were like 4 years old. His older brother got him a beat machine when he was young, like super young. And Doc had been making beats since then. So even before I knew I had a passion for music, I'm like, this man is the truth. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So,
right.
And it's odd just how things, I mean, the universe works in crazy ways, because
Yep.
the sounds that he produced, I'm like, man, like, if I was ever to get on a record, like, it would be something like this, you know? So after I discovered my passion for music, even then, I knew at the time I was not ready. I wasn't developed enough. I wasn't ready for a Doc beat, essentially. And so when I was inspired about the idea of Pink Palace Nights, and I my senior year, that single I mentioned earlier when we were talking, when I put out that single, that was one of Doc's beats. And then I had the idea. I basically caught my ex-girlfriend, and then some other things had happened with her and all that different stuff. I broke up with her New Year's Eve, because when we were fondling around, she said the other guy's name, and it was just kind of a wrap after that completely.
Right.
So I hit up Doc in February of 2016. This is when I had the idea for Pink Palace Night, and it was still just an idea. It was so fluid still, and I told him about it, and he was like, all right, so this is kind of my idea. And he'd been working with other artists and things from his area. He's based out of Louisville, Kentucky. And we just started working. And then there was one point where things were starting to come together so hard that Doc sent me an email, and 4 of the 5 beats in the email are beats that were on Pink Palace Nights. So it got to a point where we were working so, like, it just, we were vibing at the same frequency, to where he was coming with hitters. So there's a couple of tracks that I haven't released yet that did not make the album. But, I intend on doing that at some point. I didn't know if I was going to tell people or not, but Doc was the executive producer for all the instrumentals. The Cubist did not have any Beat specifically, the one who produced Mudda Wolf, but he mixed and mastered the entire project. So I use those two people because I trust them the most with, my sounds and things like that. Doc sent me the beats. I handled that, and then the Cubist, we were mixing and mastering at his studio out in Iowa City. He's got a studio, ESD. So those are the two masterminds behind all the instruments and things like that, and the full sounds. Because without them, like the Cubist, he didn't have any records that he produced on the album, but he arranged everything. So Doc had the beef and the meat and potatoes of it, but the Cubist added his own little spice to it when it came to arranging it and then bringing my voice out. I asked him so much, I stretched him. I'm like, here, I want this effect, I want that effect, I want this to delay here, all that, and he acclimated to it. So those were the two people that I entrusted with this project, and they did very, very well. So shout out to both of them.
Yeah, I definitely agree, man. Like I said, the production on this album was amazing. So how long have you been working on this project before you released it?
Yeah, so it's kind of a story. Like I said, February of 16. So from January to April, I was extremely depressed at 16. I was in the basement watching Batman Arkham Knight gameplay over and over, watching movies, binge watching animes, everything like that, just trying to find ways to occupy my time, just trying to process everything that was going on and kind of run from it too. And then February, I had the idea. I was sitting in the basement, and Doc had sent me the instrumental for Zodiac. And I was listening, and I'd come up with put that motion in her ocean to let her know I am a Pisces, and that potion got her floating. She's slick about it, but it's high key. She always want me on a snap story. She swear to father she's Spike Lee, but baby girl, keep it on the low, 'cause this lurking bitch is most likely, and they talk. And a big problem in our relationship was there was too many voices and influences, whether it was friends, whatever. And so I had that idea, and I was like, Pink Palace Nights. And originally, Pink Palace Nights was Nights with a K, and it was going to be a more intimate story about me and my boys being, 19 and 18, and all of us being around the same age, going out to the clubs in Iowa City. And I had an album artwork idea where it was going to be like us walking into the area around Union and Brothers and Fieldhouse, and it was going to take more of that direction because I did not want to give my ex-girlfriend, and I don't say her name in the whole project because she doesn't really deserve that kind of a spotlight. And also I wanted people to be able to interpret this project and I don't know if you ever had a moment with a significant other that, fundamentally changed you, but I wanted it to be so fluid that she never had. I don't describe her body. I don't describe her face, her complexion, her hair. I don't say her name because I want this character to be something otherworldly, because that's what she was to me. And so Pink Palace Nights originally had that idea, and then it developed over time. So in February 16, I had the idea. Of course, because it wasn't as solid, I was not inspired enough, and I was still processing, so I couldn't get that idea out. And then towards the end of 16, I met up with some people. I created a creative team, got linked in with my photographer, and some different things like that, and the project became more solid. And it kind of changed to where, I dealt with these emotions, I processed it more, and it was more being inspired from the feelings I had for my ex-girlfriend. And I knew to get past that situation, I was going to have to produce this project. So Pink Palace Nights had to come out for my closure. So then going towards 17, at the end of 16, I had Mudda Wolf come out. And that was going to be originally a track that was a part of Pink Palace Nights, but did not make it. So 17 rolled over, and one night I was in the shower. I was staying at my friend Nathan's house, Nathan Heisinger. He's a very talented photographer. We were living in Marion in a 5-bedroom house, and my creative team, I was with another friend of mine and another friend. So it was 4 of us in there. I'm in the shower, and it hits me like a bolt of lightning. And I'm like, I have the idea. So I hurry up, I dry off, and I run upstairs. I'm like, bro, get out the shower. And my boy got out the shower, and he's like, because he was showering upstairs, and he's like, okay, what's going on? What's going on? Like, you sound manic right now. And I'm like, I have the track list in my head. I have it in my head. So he grabs a notepad, and we just start concepting it out. I'm like, okay, I have the beat for this track. I have the beat for this track. I have the beat for this track. And then during the summertime, I created a 59-hour playlist of straight lyricism. And Nate was the one who kind of gave me the Student to the Game playlist. And I just listened for hours. I was working a lawn care job, so I was out there spraying like 10 hours a day. And when I felt it was time to write, then I wrote. But lyrically, when I had the idea for Pink Palace Nights, I was not strong enough yet. So I had to develop, and I had to practice. And so that, then the summer of 17, basically all of the album got done. Fall time coming around, I cut tracks in and out, and then by November, everything was written, recorded. It just needed to be taken to the studio to get mixed and mastered. The Cubist is a very busy gentleman, and he has his own career and things that he had going on. So sometimes it could be hard to get in the studio, and if you have priorities, you have to work around other people's schedule, so we ended up getting everything done and in order. I think late spring, early summer. And then after that, it was just trying to find out ways to get this project out there. And I haven't had a lot of help at all with marketing, building a campaign and things. So it was just me having to study the game in media and figure out what is the best way to go about this. And being an aspiring artist, man, it's tough. Like, you don't have the money behind you. You don't have major labels. You don't have, I don't even have a manager right now. Like, so I do my own thing. I have to manage myself. You know what I'm saying? I have to charge people based off of what I feel I'm worth, things like that. So it's like, that's in the whole process of Pink Palace Nights, it's been so much more than just the music and producing the records. It's been all of this in preparation. And I just finally, I had it done. I had all the files ready, and I picked a date. I said September 29th. We're not waiting another day. And then I got in touch with the distributor, had it ready for all the platforms and streaming networks and everything like that, and it was ready. And that is the whole process. So from February of 16 until now, that's been what had happened. So it's been two plus years in the making.
Right, and I could definitely tell that it was a piece of work, because you can tell when an album's been rushed out or different things like that. But this album right here had a story behind it, and you could tell that you put work into each and every track to make it continue on to the next track to continue the story, which is so crazy, but it was amazing, man. I appreciated every second of it. So
I appreciate you, bro. I appreciate you.
You mentioned a little bit about how this girl kind of like put you into a sunken place, dark place, and that ultimately led you to become who you are now. You kind of led on the question to me if I ever had a situation like that, and to be completely honest, man, that's what got me to the point where I am now. I was kind of in a similar situation as you, in a long-term relationship, and then it all fell apart. And at that point in time, I had to find myself, what I really wanted in my life. And I think that's also what's, I can account that for most of the success that I've had so far was because of being in that dark place and finding a way to become truly who I am now. So I think a lot of that has played a role in your music, and a lot of that plays a role in a young man maturing into the person he is. So I could definitely appreciate listening to that as well, coming from the same emotions and the same feelings as you. So moving on from that a little bit, you had a couple features on the album. How did you choose about who got featured, and why did you specifically choose those people?
Well, with this being the first presentation of Jordan Burgett, I was not gonna have another rapper on there. I really feel like what's crucial I can't remember what interview. It might have been Ebro or I can't remember who it was. But there was a big radio station. They were talking about, yo, if the track that you send me that you want to be featured on my radio has a feature on it, that's out of rotation already. Because rap is really about proving grounds. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Ultimately, no matter what you're trying to convey, the message that you're trying to do, this genre is competitive. And if you're not coming hard and you're not showing your value, you will be in and out, quick. So, I knew, first of all, I was not going to have any rappers because this is my first real project. My EP that came out earlier this year, and I had released an unmixed and mastered version of it like a year or two ago. Those tracks were all supposed to be a part of Pink Palace Nights. So I don't count that at all because, one of them is on Pink Palace Nights and another one was considered for it. Well, three of them were considered for it, and then, the last one didn't make it. So I just knew that, first off, like, you can't, you have to prove yourself. Like, the story needs to be told, but again, like, people are watching. If this is your first album and it's loaded with features, and you can't rely on that. A lot of people, and what I'm seeing now is artists rely on features. They rely on, oh, who can I have on this verse? Or I can't write for this subject for too long, so I'm going to have somebody else go on it. And I did not want that at all. I want people to know that, nah, bro, even two of the choruses I sing on Slide in the Palace, I sing on that because that's how crucial it is. So going to the features, Mario Smith, Savon, and Ade are all R&B singers from my area. I wanted to highlight them because, first of all, they're some of the most talented individuals I've ever met in my life. Savon, we've actually been friends since we were 3 years old. Ade, before he had even started putting out music, he is the feature on Zodiac. He came and featured on Zodiac. I saw something he posted on Facebook, and I was like, man, I really need this guy on the track. And then Mario, the relationship sparked organically. I was in the studio recording a night at Giovanni's, third track on Pink Palace. And I was in the studio laying down the verses, and Mario had come in to say hey to the Cubans, they're boys. I stopped by the studio, and Shorty B, a very crucial part of my career. He's the event planner around here. He gets all the artists here and things like that. And the Cubans were both saying, you need to have this guy on a track. So I'm just in the mode. I'm like, okay, yeah, whatever. And they're like, no, for real, you need to have him on the track. And so I'm like, all right, man, I'm going to freestyle you these verses, and I want you to I'm going to rap to you these verses, and I want you to freestyle the hook. And he's like, all right, cool. So I rap him the verses, and he comes in and he freestyles actually what the hook is for A Night at Giovanni's. And I was like, all right, step in the booth, bro. Because he's super talented. He's got a 90s Jodeci, kind of vibe to him. And I'm like, I've always cherished that kind of music. So I was like, okay, cool. Savon, we were in choir together in high school. And I've always tried to press him because he's not a very super out there guy. He's very a pivotal part of his character is he's just real cool and real chill, and I respect him for it. And so I was like, bro, come out your shell. I got this hook, and I know you could sing it better. Come by the crib. And he recorded. I sang him the part of Nana, and he just murdered it. He did it in 3 takes.
Wow.
And that was the first time I think he'd ever recorded in the studio. So just naturally gifted. And we actually recorded, a lot of people don't know, Nana was recorded. It was one of the first tracks for Pink Palace Nights. It was recorded in 2016. I think it was April. So I've had that track for a long time. We just remastered it for the album because that was one of the moments that I was so inspired and I felt ready that could fit for the story. And then Ade, we met modeling in a fashion show together. This guy has one of the most live personalities of all time. And everybody's just attracted to him. He's like a magnet, you know what I'm saying? And his charisma, it's infectious. So I knew with him, I'm like, I gotta at least have this guy dancing in a video or something. And then a couple months later, he posted a video of him doing a cover, and I was like, man, I didn't even know he could fucking sing like that. Like, this is insane. So same thing happened. I laid down the hook, and I hit him up. I needed a singer for Zodiac. I laid down the hook with me singing on it, and I was like, yo, you gotta come on this. Like, I know you could do it better. And he came in and turned it into his own, sang lyrics, and just like owned it. You know what I'm saying? So, I wanted those R&B vibes too, with the story of being about love. It didn't need to be a bunch of hard rap shit. It needed to really, really, really convey like what I needed to say in those tracks. And if I needed an R&B singer to come in and handle it, I'm all about that. So that was why those features were chosen. One, because they're just super talented, and two, it was a necessity for those tracks and that part of the story that voice needed to come in and do those runs or have those ad libs in the background or those blends and everything. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. I just wasn't capable, so I let them do it.
No, yeah, it definitely adds a great touch, man. And I like the fact that you said you didn't want to feature any other rappers on it. Like you said, you got to prove to everyone else that you're willing to do this by yourself if nobody else is there. It's nice to have different rappers feature on your album down the line once you already proved yourself. But for right now, I feel like that was a great choice on your behalf by doing this mostly on your own.
And one more thing too with that. I forgot to mention one person because he's not listed as a feature on the project. The track Equivalent Exchange is basically my conversation with the darker part of myself, but I make him a physical representation. I make him the devil. I'm not. A lot of people don't know I'm not super into religion. I try every day to find God or the higher power throughout myself and my experiences and things that I feel and things that I hear, and I pray and things like that, but through affirmations and all that. So my old roommate, his name's Kendon, I call him K, one of my best friends. While I was at work and I was writing the project, I came home and he's like, man, I just wrote a poem. I don't know, like I want to inspire you to continue writing for your project. And he said it to me, and I was like, okay, that's going on the album, bro. And he's not a rapper. He makes a little bit of music. He's not like super serious about it. Excuse me, but he that's the conversation with the devil. Kendon takes that persona on Equivalent Exchange. We don't list it as a feature because I want this to. And on SoundCloud, I have it listed featuring the devil, but on all major platforms, and on the SoundCloud, you have a little bit more freedom. I feel like, but on all major platforms, I wanted people to really interpret that is my mind or the devil, something that does not have a physical form, things that we can't see. It's that evil energy that it doesn't have a name to it. You can call it whatever. But you haven't seen it, but you know it's there, and that's what I wanted that to take upon. So thanks to him too, because without that poem, Equivalent Exchange wouldn't be what it is.
Yeah, man, that's actually a question I had here coming up, but that is pretty crazy because I'm pretty sure I know Kendon. He used to go to Prairie, I think, back in the day.
Oh wow!
So that's a small world, dude. Things go around. But yeah, dude, that was like that was a great touch in my opinion, man, because you're just like. It came in with the he knows, and then all of a sudden you hear this voice, and it's the voice, the story that the voice is telling was like you had to sit there and listen. Like I was so tuned in. I was like, holy shit, dude! Like that just added so much, like action to this track, dude. It was amazing. But not only that, the beginning of that track I thought was very intellectual. You had a couple different conveying messages that were very great as well. So going off of that track, I thought that track was one of the tracks that I liked. I'm not picking any favorites, but that was one of the tracks that I liked the best out of the album. What would you say was one of the tracks or the track that brought out the most emotion, or you thought was the best on the album? What would you say the best track was?
Well, I can't say that, and I'll we'll kind of because there's no. Every one of the tracks is essential to the story. So
Right.
no one has more weight than the other. I can tell you though, the last 3 tracks on the project, the Chase, Equivalent Exchange, and Terra, and probably Eden, are it's tough, man. But
Yeah.
they really, 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 really give you like this, the Chase, Equivalent Exchange, and Terra let you understand that, okay, you have listened this entire time, and now this is the catch. This is the climax. Like, this is what you've waited for. All the suspension, all the what the hell is gonna happen? You know what I'm saying? Those tracks really, really highlight that. And I wanted to take one of my friends messaged me. We used to work together at Ruffalo Cody when I was like 27, when I was 17. And he's like, it's really, really cool to me that you've taken a really classic like story, like building, like template, and basically like everything leads up. And ironically, that's how it happened in my life. I want to clarify, I am not the rapper ever. I do not lie about what I go through, and I will not fabricate shit. You're getting me 100% of the time, because I'm not about that fake shit, bro. I can't give people things that if I have not experienced it, I cannot talk about it. It's not a part of me. I'm going to leave that for someone else. So it's ironic that my life basically laid out this perfect template, and I had to go through this trauma just to get that. So it follows all the way up. And when you hit the Chase, that's the climax, right? And Equivalent Exchange is like kind of the recap. And then Terra is your end resolve. And a lot of people don't know. I mean, I'm a new artist to the game, so as I start getting more exposure, I'm sure a lot of people in my cult following will start knowing this. But I'm very, very into anime. It's a part of my life, my childhood. It was like an escape for me. I learned a lot of my lessons from life from those. It's weird how characters that don't exist can impact you so much. But Equivalent Exchange was inspired from Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood and theories of alchemy. Basically, I have given a piece of myself, a part of my heart, to exchange this project, this information, and I'm giving it to everybody. So I like to take the approach of like a sacrificial lamb in this album, because I want my and I want that to be conveyed in Equivalent Exchange. I want my experiences to have something people can learn from. So those tracks, I feel like, really, really highlight that. A lot of people don't know too, the pianos, because Equivalent Exchange is just pianos. There's no drums behind it, anything like that. The same pianos that are in Equivalent Exchange were taken from Eden, the first track.
Okay.
So I was basically, when I got all the sounds for the album, I got all the track outs, all the stems, I listened to every single track, each instrument separately. I'm a little bit obsessive when it comes to my music, so I like to hear everything about it. And I heard those pianos, and I literally got goosebumps, like, instantly. I was like, whoa, this is chilling.
Dude, me too, dude. It was so smooth. I think that's why it caught me so much. It was like I was so tuned in. It was just so smooth, man. It was a great touch. I don't know what it is about it, but like you said, it just gives you those goosebumps because it's so smooth.
Right, and there's that darkness to it where it's like the slow descent. And
right.
Taking those pianos from Eden, and because it's Eden inspired, the Eden hook is very, very similar to the hook on the Portal. And when you listen, and I know you'll probably peep it again, but go and listen after we get off this podcast, and listen to the hook on Eden, and then listen to the hook on Equivalent Exchange. And it's just so tied in together. I wanted to bring back an older element of the project and show how different Eden almost comes off a bit misogynistic, and then being destroyed by a woman, it made me vulnerable. You know what I'm saying? And that's what Equivalent Exchange is conveying. Like, oh, boss, you thought you had it handled in Eden. Like, oh, you're not Adam. You're not falling for these things. These women can't deceive you. And then basically everything that you said that you were prepared for, and you were a big dog and you were a man, now look at you. Who are you? What do you know? And then that is when, in Equivalent Exchange, that he knows, that allows that darker part, that chorus, those voices, those demons are saying, he knows, listen. And then when the poem comes in, it's basically this darker part of me, this devil saying, look, bro, this is what you need to do. And everything is addressed. So in my lowest point, the darkest part of myself took over, and then other outside voices and other pains and other demons were affirming that. And that's why I think Equivalent Exchange is probably the most unique out of all the tracks. But those last three are really, really important to, kind of wrapping things up and leading into the next project. I probably shouldn't have said that, but
it's a hard question on my behalf too to ask, because obviously you think all the tracks are the best, or you wouldn't release them,
Right,
But
right.
but it was more of just like the song that more the most emotion, or like, so you did a great job of answering it. I appreciate that as well. And it like you said, man, it's kind of weird how, I mean, I'm also 22 as well, so we're kind of at the same age, maybe going through the same emotions, or whatever you want to call it. But it's pretty crazy to hear you explain all of these things, and in my mind, kind of like play back how I got through it. It's very, very beautiful, man. I appreciate it a lot, man. It's really, really crazy to hear all of this. So there's my last question about this album. Well, I have a couple other questions. I have writing questions, and then I have a couple of questions about the future. But my last question, to kind of wrap up this new album you just released, is what impact do you hope to make, and what was the main message you were trying to give people with this album?
I think a crucial thing about people like myself a lot of times is, and younger people in general, we have to hit our head to learn our lesson, sometimes multiple times. And so what I wanted to do, I mean, everybody's going to make their own choice, and I approve of that. Do what you need to do to, get to where you think you need to go. But I wanted to offer up myself, like I said, as a sacrificial lamb. Let me make this sacrifice for you, so you don't have to do it yourself.
Okay.
If you're in a similar predicament with a girl that, or a guy or whoever, whatever your orientation is, or whatever, if you're man, woman, whatever, you can take this person. I might have said she in the album, but there might be girls that are going through the same thing with their significant others. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
So take what you can from it and learn, and you know what I'm saying, and also enjoy it. Like, these tracks, I'm not preaching this album, and I want to clarify that for anybody who's considering right now, as Jake and I are having this conversation. I'm not preaching. I don't come out here telling you don't do this, don't do that, you need to live your life. Like, no. I'm giving you my situation, and because music is all subjective to what you're going through in your life at that time, take it and take what you can from it. You know what I'm saying? If Eden is where you're at that time in your life, then let that be your anthem. If Equivalent Exchange is the thing that's getting you through tonight, then listen to that. If you're having doubts and beliefs in yourself, and like you're having to reaffirm that, listen to the Palace. Feel like a king. You know what I'm saying? Like, do whatever necessary. It really take on those energies and those personas that I had throughout the album, and let that help you, and let that be your outlet. Take that, analyze it, break down the lyrics, which they will be posted on Apple Music here soon. I've been kind of lacking on getting to that, but that's what I want to offer up. Pink Palace Nights is just me telling you my story, and you taking your own perspective from it. But if you can, take everything from it, and my intent, don't ever allow someone to get you to the point that I was at. And when it gets dark, understand that too, because I was very, very suicidal after all this happened, and I'm a dark person a lot of times in my nature. Don't ever feel like your situation is so crazy that you're conquered by it. because I believe this, and I'm a cuss because I feel like it's necessary sometimes. But you can fucking conquer anything in your life, anything that's presented to you. Fucking conquer it and do what I did if you can. If you can get past it and then also make something blossom from it, fucking take over. To show that situation or whatever's negative that's trying to take you over or take advantage of you and try to kill you, nah, say fuck you to that and really embody that. Bring that out of yourself, that aggression, even if it's not a part of your personality. Come from a place that you've conquered it and you can feel that way, and when it's done with, you've left everything on it. You know what I'm saying? If music is not your thing, fucking hit the gym. Go crazy in it. You know what I'm saying? If music is your thing, put everything into it. If you're in sports, go crazy with it. But let those experiences push you and motivate you and keep you inspired instead of, killing you. And that's what Pink Palace Nights is. A situation that could have killed me and could have had a lot of other people damaged in it. I came out of it and I made something beautiful from it. And that's what this album needs to inspire people to do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, dude, that is very well described, man. And like you said, man, it does take things, it does take horrible situations to affect you to make something blossom, which is I can relate to a lot. So I appreciate you saying that, man. It's really cool to hear your side of. That's why I wanted originally at the beginning of this interview. I said I know some of these answers in my head, my perspective, but I want to hear what they coming from your mouth, what they all mean. So you did a great job of describing that, and I appreciate that. So from moving on from the new album, I mean, some of these questions may play into what the new album is, but I got a couple questions here. The first one is from Dav, I believe is how you pronounce it, in Cedar Falls. He said, how does failure play into where you are now? You kind of just described it a little bit, but if you could go over it again, I'd appreciate that.
Well, yeah, going in deeper with failure, life is going to kick you in the dick, or if you don't have a dick, it's going to kick you in your vagina a lot. You have a lot of times where you're just, and I think that's the constant cycle. It's ups and downs. People feel like there's just going to be a miraculous time in their life where it's not going to be hard, and that's not the truth at all. No, life is always hard. You just become stronger. You become more acclimated to it. It turns you into more of an animal, so you know how to, when failure starts to present itself to you, you get excited. You're like, okay, bet, come on. Show me what you can do. Help me grow. Make me into something stronger. You know what I'm saying? So when a lot of times when I can get out of my mental breakdown and I come back to real life, I'm like, all right, let's handle this. Let's not be conquered by this. This is the conversation I have with myself in the morning. Sometimes it's hard to get up. Sometimes you don't want to wake up. You want to sleep. You want to escape from your problems. You don't want to go to your job. You don't want to, you know what I'm saying? You have a career that you want to work on, but you've been getting knocked down every time. Failure is essential. And if you're afraid to fail, then you're never going to be successful. Because what a lot of people don't learn, and what Jake, you and myself have both learned from our situations, is that trauma and not even trauma, but just pain in general, it builds character. That's why I feel like working out, man, you can take a lot of things from it, because look, it's slow. Your results are slow. You don't go to the gym one night and wake up the next morning and be cock dieseled or have the best body, the best abs. No, it's every day. You wake up, you don't even want to go in there sometimes. And you fight that pain when you're on your last rep and you're struggling and your muscles are fucking burning. You don't feel like you can do it, but you put it up. And when you hit it and you sit up, you're like, all right, man, I've conquered this. And that's the same attitude that you have to have towards life. There is resistance every day, all the time, and you have to either arrive or get killed by it. And that's the beautiful thing about, a new day happening every time. You can go to sleep, and everything that's happened, whether it be days, months, weeks, years, whatever, before you, it's all gone. You get a clean slate. But at the same time, learn from what's come before you, the things that you've already been through. And you have a new beginning. So failure is just an opportunity to succeed again. it's just all about your perspective towards it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man, that was, again, man, you're really intellectual. You can describe things so perfectly. I don't know what it is, but goddamn, man, you have a way with words. That is for sure.
I appreciate it, man.
It's I agree with you. Just like even the example you had with the gym, man, and it's like one of those things where you aren't going to get it all right now. Your plan, God's plan, or whatever plan you want to believe it is in your life, is not going to give it all to you right now. So you have to go through those failures. You have to go through those times when you don't know what to do in order to figure out what the end goal is. And then once you get to that end goal, there never will be an end goal. There's always going to be something else that'll
Right.
pop up, you know. So
Right.
it's pretty crazy how, just like even me moving out here to LA, it's, at the time I was like, yeah, this is gonna solve everything. And then I moved here and I was like, well, now I just got to work harder. Now I got to keep grinding. Now I got to put in more work and prove what this is gonna be for myself. So yeah, man, that was beautifully described. And then it was a 2-part question here. After he said, how does failure play into your life, or where you are now? And then the second part of the question is, do you think you have it all figured out, or do you think that more failure is to come? And if so, do you believe in falling forward?
I will never in my life have everything figured out. And I know that. I'm not, the moment that you're not humble, that's when life will humble the shit out of you. So it's like, seriously, man, I've had so many times, like, in my, past years where I felt like I had everything figured out. I'm like, all right, man, I'm on top of my shit. And then life's like, okay, really? All right.
Yeah.
And knocks me on my ass. And that's the thing is that I feel like, in learning that and knowing that life is going to do that, what's necessary is, okay, always having the confidence in yourself that you have the knowing for your life, but always also knowing that you know nothing, because people who have everything figured out can never learn anything new. There's a old Asian like proverb. I don't know what country it comes from, but I know it's somewhere from Asia, and everybody can apply this, right? How can you fill a cup that's already full? You can't. You know what I'm saying? You have to be constantly empty every time. Like I love to get new perspectives on things, and typically, if you're a lot like me, you learn from going through it. It's hard to learn from other people's mistakes. So, that I'm going to fail constantly, but I'm going to arrive constantly because I refuse to be broken by it. I will let it shake me. I won't let it take me. You know what I'm saying? And
Exactly.
so yeah, that's my perspective on it. I don't have nothing figured out. I need to learn more every day. My life is what we are as beings is we're constantly evolving. Humans are constantly evolving. Constantly evolve in your life. Just because we're at this point in our evolution, we figured this out, there are people every day waking up trying to acquire more. So that's the perspective everybody has to have for their life if they want success.
Right, exactly. And like there's kind of a little thing that I talked about in previous podcasts, but there's this thing called like holding on to the side of the pool, where like you think you have it figured out, you're playing the safe route, you're just doing the same things every day. Like you're like, all right, so I'm gonna wake up and do this normal routine. I'm gonna hang on to the side of the pool. But then when that water starts to come up and you're gonna drown, you gotta like dive down into the deep end and figure out what you need to do to become a better person. So you have to take some of that beating of failure or drowning, quote unquote, to learn how to swim. Is the way that I look at it. So it's pretty crazy that like you said, it sucks at some point in times, but it's what you need to be able to move forward. So the next write-in question here that I have is from Charles in Des Moines, Iowa. His question is, when you get your first big check, who is the first person that you were taking care of?
Easy, mom. That's it.
I love
my
it.
mom. my mom is my superhero. Like I said, people see, this is the thing, man. It's crazy. My mother had me at 16 years. She was pregnant at 15. She turned 16 in December and then birthed her first child. She went through 7 hours of labor, birthed her first child. They had to get me out with a suction cup. There was like a couple times I could have almost died when she was going through labor, and she could have too. And she pushed my big head ass out and and arrived every moment. My mom took a year break after she graduated at 17 from Jefferson High School in Cedar Rapids. After that, she took a year off from school, got her certification as a nail technician while working 2 to 3 jobs all the time and raising a kid when she was a kid herself, and then went to college and got her degree. So it's like, I mean, that woman has done literally the impossible. Like, I know so many people, and without my father, my biological father was not involved in a grand portion of my life. And her and my stepfather did not get married until I was 12. And he basically raised me as his own son, so I call him my pops. But, I mean, and when I say my mom too, I have 3 younger siblings. One, my little brother's 5. One of my little sisters is 3, and my other little sister is 8 months. And I mean, I'm taking care of my family, and then my girlfriend, of course. Like, basically, my inner circle, like, one of my main goals. I wake up every day. I want to make sure that I take care of my family, and I make opportunities for all my boys. Because opportunity is going to be the only thing that really inspires people. They have to be ready for it. You can't just do shit for everybody. I mean, except for my mom and my siblings and my mom deserves to live in paradise, bro. If I could give her heaven without her dying, I would do it in a heartbeat, because she's done the impossible all while trying to raise me. And we've had our problems and things like that, and me developing and her being a kid. I mean, when she was 20 years old, she had a 4-year-old. You know what I'm saying? So,
yeah, that's crazy.
Mom is she's on some next level shit, and in my mind, nobody can compare to her. So that's my superhero, and that's the person that when I got my, I'm on tour for the first time, hopefully within the next few months of this album. If things do end up blowing up and going well, my mother is going to, she's going to reap the benefits of her investment, and, her investment being me. It's going to pay off. So,
right, and that's beautiful, man. That's the first person that I would take care of as well, because think of all the sacrifices they have had to make to get you to the point where you are now. I mean, I don't even know for the most part, but I'm sure I wasn't the easiest child to handle. So, that would be the first person that I would take care of as well. And then I just had one other question actually that just came in from a fan a couple hours ago. This one you can kind of talk about. The question is when you go on tour, what are some of the cities that you would like to hit? So you can kind of talk about cities you would want to move to, different things like that, or however you want to explain that.
I mean, honestly, I have to go everywhere. I'm a work fanatic, and if I'm getting paid to do this, I want each and every person possible that is a fan of my music to see me and get to experience this show live. I mean, I gotta go everywhere. I want to go overseas. Like, I can't pinpoint specific places. Like, just because and that's the one thing, I don't know where this person is from. But being from Cedar Rapids, huh?
So about 20 minutes. So she's
Hello?
All right. I'm not sure exactly what happened there, but it could have been the recording conference call, or it could just be the service. I'm not sure. Can you hear me better now, though?
Yes, sir, I can.
All right. So the last final question here that I just got a couple hours ago was from Sarah in Del Mar, California, which is about 20, roughly 20 to 30 minutes away from where I am here in Pasadena. But her question was, what are some of the cities, like you kind of started to elaborate on it, but some of the cities that you would like to tour in?
Yeah, well, yeah, definitely, Sarah. So the thing is that Jake knows this too. Being from Cedar Rapids, it's a very small city. We're landlocked. We're around a bunch of corn. Everything that people do to have fun is just get drunk and, you know what I'm saying, do drugs and stuff. So
Right.
I haven't got to really experience the world too much. I mean, I've been around the States, but I haven't ever left the country. I haven't been financially in a position to do any of that. I will tell you 100% sure I'm coming to California.
Yes,
but
sir.
I gotta experience everything. So if that means going everywhere, like if I have the opportunity, I will tour for months on end. I will visit every spot possible. You know, and two, I like to have a dialogue with my fans. You know, if it gets to a point, and I believe it will, without a doubt, to where I can, you know, ask people what cities, you know, I need to visit. If my social media is popping like that, and I can have a dialogue with people, I would love to, you know, get some requests. Come out here, you know what I'm saying? Like, because I love to perform. That's a part of, you know, what's going to be my job as an artist. So I need that. I need to be everywhere. So if I can travel the world, you know, that's what I'm trying to do while doing this music.
Right, exactly. Good answer, man. And so that's all I have for the writing questions. But I just want to thank everybody who did write in. Each and every week I like to include my listeners, just kind of like you said, kind of get a dialogue going between the people who are actually supportive and listening to my craft and me, the host, kind of putting it out there. So I appreciate the people who write in every single week. And I think Dab said that he was a pretty good close friend of yours in Cedar Falls.
Yeah, Davi. Yeah. Well, see, I didn't know when you his name. Yeah, I know how it's spelled. It's Davi. That's
Davi,
one of my.
okay.
Yeah, he's actually an artist out of here. His vibe is dope, man. He's got some good music.
Okay, yeah. So that's the thing. Like when I get writing questions, it's a crazy demographic. Like sometimes it's people that know the person, and then other times
Right.
it's people who are like interested in their craft. You know, it's crazy to just get people involved and hear everybody's different perspective.
I appreciate you guys. Everybody who, you know, sent in questions, you know. I appreciate it too. I know, Jake, that's a thing for you frequently, but I've never had, this is my third interview maybe, and we haven't ever had a dialogue where people kind of come in from the outside and, you know, ask things. So it's cool to know people who listen to the music or listening to this now, see how they're intrigued or what they want to know about me. So I appreciate you guys too.
Right, exactly. And I think it'd be cool too to maybe like in a month or two, like this is something you could do. Or maybe down the road if you come out to California and we have you in studio. I think it'd be cool to give people a little bit more time too to kind of pick apart the lyrics, you know, and then kind of have questions about like a certain bar or like a certain part of a song. I think that would be cool to hear other people's perspectives, you know. Maybe that's something you can kind of put in the works, or I mean, next time you're out this way, we can get into that as well.
Well, I've been looking to come to LA, so we can let's work that out.
Let's get it. Yeah, let's get it. Let's do it. So the next kind of thing, talking about LA and whatever, the next type of thing that I kind of want to talk about is the future, and hopefully in the future you'll be touring out this way. That would be really cool. But for the future, this is kind of a tough question to answer, especially for myself. I've had this question asked to me a couple times, and it's always kind of hard to sit down and think about. But where do you see yourself in 1 year from now?
365 days from now. I genuinely, I truly see my name being a household name. I see myself being one of the most well-known. I mean, they'll phrase it as up and coming, but I really, really, really feel like I have something that, you know, the world kind of needs right now. I think that we're all sent here at a certain point by whoever or whatever to first learn and grow and evolve. And secondly, wherever the world is, sometimes the universe has certain expressions, just how we have certain expressions, and those lead to certain actions, things that happen. And I'm not saying I'm some, golden child, but I do believe that the things that I was given throughout my experiences need to be shared with other people. So I feel like the universe or God or whatever you want to call it is going to make it where I am in the position where the people who need to hear me and need this message will hear it, no matter where they're from, no matter what part of the world they're from, their language barrier, and them having to, translate lyrics and stuff like that, whatever. I truly believe that, and I don't know if it's going to be a year from now. There are some people that, have $2 in their pocket, and 365 days later, they're, getting paid $35 grand, $50 grand a show. And I very well feel like that can be my life. Really, it just depends on now, too, yes, the steps that I make, but I do need the support of people out there. Word of mouth is the most powerful form of marketing. And so, whoever's listening and whoever, feels like they, are vibing with the project or are going to, you are a crucial part of, the most essential part of what happens. Yes, I am the deliverer of the message, but if I don't have people helping that spread, it's like the gospel, you know what I'm saying? You can hand somebody the word or whatever, but it's the other people spreading it, you know what I'm saying, that makes it essential. So a lot of it depends on the fan basis and how people feel, but I very well believe if everything goes how I think what I've been shown, 365 days from now, my name will be known.
Right, exactly. That's a great answer, man. And I like what you said about everyone that needed to hear the message would hear it, because there's some point in times in this it's not really a career yet, but in this passion that I have right now, this line of work that I'm doing with this podcast, it's I get down on myself because I see numbers. Some people are numbers people. They like the numbers, and I'm not a big numbers guy at this point in time, because I'm not seeing like crazy amounts of numbers. But at the same time, I think the people that need to hear it and the people that want to hear it are going to hear it. So that's what keeps me motivated. Is like, if I can touch maybe 10 to 20 people, their heart, with one sentence that I said, that makes me fulfilled more than anything. Yeah. So I think, like you said, the people that need to hear it will hear it. And like you said on the marketing as well, word of mouth, we're in the same position, man. It's nice to, it's just good that's what I like about podcasts. It's nice to sit down and talk to people, hear their true intentions, and then other people, the listeners, can hear their true intentions and want to get into their, listen to their line of work. And I hope that this podcast helps you market not only your album, but the future as well, once people get to know a little bit more about you. Because I've definitely learned a lot about you in this hour that we've talked. So I'm sure a lot of other people will get more out of this as well. I just have a few more questions here, and then we can kind of wrap it up. So the next question about the future that I have here is, and you don't really have to answer this completely if you don't want, because some of it's kind of hidden until the very last minute, but how long will you wait till release another project?
Well, so basically, there's going to be some things that if you all ride along this journey, you're going to be very, very impressed by. I'm going to take an approach that no other artist has as of yet. And I'm not going to say any of these ideas out loud because I'm the type of person I like to make things happen. There's a lot of people talking, but there's not a lot of people doing. So, and I've known too that a lot of people who are not original will take your idea and try to do it, and you know, it's not about who did it first, it's about who did it right. But I'm not giving y'all none of my goals. But what I can tell you is, I have already started working on my next album. I am not the type to rush the process. It could be 6 months from now, probably won't be. But it could be a year from now, it could be 2 years from now. I may release some sort of EP or something of that nature here in the next few months. Maybe specifically around February, featuring some artists that you guys might know, but I'm not going to give away his name either. So, I mean, you can anticipate that, but as far as, I'm gonna leave it at that.
Leave it at that. I like that. I think the element of surprise too as well. Once it just pops out at you, it kind of makes it that much better, you know. So
if you give them too much info, they think they know you. If they think they know you, they think they know your steps. You know what I'm saying?
Right. I like that. I like that a lot. And then kind of the last question here for the future is, who's one artist that you hope to work with one day? It could be anybody as big as you want or anybody who's local, whatever you want. One artist.
Hands down, Kendrick Lamar, and I want to body him on the track. Because Kendrick, and I'm not there yet. That's why, Kendrick, if you hear this, no, I don't want to feature yet. Maybe you can have the hook. You can have the hook, but that's the one thing that like a lot of artists don't peep about, like Kendrick Lamar. I mean, consistently. I mean, superb. Like in my mind, he is one of the greatest to ever do it, and that's what I'm gonna say. He arrives every moment, every one of his tracks. But a goddamn Kendrick Lamar feature can like make a whole track. And if it's another rapper on there, you can guarantee you that he's coming for your throat. No matter how much love it is, that motherfucker is not playing. So I want to get to a point where I know I could go bar for bar with Kendrick Lamar or another one, Eminem, but I don't think that will happen. I'm not one of these new cats that has no respect. I know my fucking place. So, you know, I pay respect to them. And the ones who have paved the way for me, I definitely want to work with somebody as lyrical as that. But I want to be ready for it. And so, you know, I mean, if I had to get, you know, I mean, it's got to be Kendrick or M. And I mean, I'm really big about lyricism. I do like vibes and stuff too. So, I mean, I think working with Drake or J. Cole, you know, I mean, I got a lot of people. There's a dude out in Birmingham named Miss. A lot of people from here don't even know about that. I want to work with him. I got a whole list. So I don't want to say any more people because I don't want anybody, if something blows up and then they're like, man, you didn't mention me, like, fuck that guy. I got a lot of people I want to work with, but specifically, I mean, you know, Kendrick and M have out of this generation, and I would say Drake and J. Cole too are right up there. They've inspired me so much to grow and you know, be more versatile as an artist that I gotta be ready for it, but I can guarantee you, I want to get a track with them, and I'm coming with the shits. I'm bringing everything I got. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And I'm a huge Kendrick fan as well. I actually got 2 of his albums on vinyl hanging up right behind me. For one, I named my pets after him. It's fucking. I mean, it's just like it's the lyrics, man. Like I think that's why I love your music as well a lot. It's just because the lyrics and the messages you convey are better than like some mumble rap or some other like little vibe, you know. Like I truly appreciate the message you are trying to convey, and I think that's what Kendrick's trying to do as well.
And one thing too, I'll tell you guys, there's a different lane for everybody. I'm not one of them angry. I mean, I'm a young guy. I'm not one of them angry old, you know. But I'm a young dude, and although I do really, really like lyricism, I mean, if I'm in the club and some Lil Pump or Migos or anybody comes on, I'm not, because they're not spitting, you know, full stories. And that doesn't mean I'm not gonna have fun. There's a time and a place for all types of music. So, you know, in this mumble wave, it can be fun. You know what I'm saying? So I really believe that you know, we gotta usher in and respect you know, a level of consciousness that I feel like is kind of, you know, people are shying away from, or is a little bit absent right now. But I love everybody. So, you know, if I could, I'd work with everybody in the fucking game, but I don't have that much time. So I gotta, you know, I gotta be a little bit selective, you know.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that as well, because I'm not throwing shade, like you said, on any mumble rap or anything like that. There's a time and a place. Like when I'm in the club, for sure, like you said, I love to turn up to some Migos. So
yeah.
But when I'm sitting here actually listening to the music, tuning in, trying to pick it apart, I can appreciate your lyrics and different things like that. So yeah, so Jordan, I just have a couple, we're going to close it out here, and there's just two things that I want you to do. The first thing is one key message you want to get across to people all over the world. You kind of mentioned a couple different things, but like one key message, straight to the point of what you could, if you had a voice for everyone to hear in the world, what would it be? And then the last thing is just plug some of your up and coming dates so people in Iowa and people around the area can come see you. And where can people find your music and social media?
Okay. So first thing, very simple. Say screw it and do it. Anytime you're scared, no good decision was ever made out of fear. So I'm just get past that, be confident in it, and do it. I dropped out of college when I had a music video that went viral, and I'm not saying I'm out here like that now, but it's paid off. So if you have a dream, you have a goal, you have something that inspires you every day, you know, and if it does happen to be with school, if you want to be a doctor, engineer, whatever, don't listen to what anybody else says. This is your life, your one experience, whether it's mom, dad, teacher, whoever. People can bring a lot of negativity in your life. You need to say straight up, I'm a curse again, fuck you. Don't ever let anybody tell you you can't do some shit. Just do it, bro. Like Shia LaBeouf, do it. I'm serious.
Yeah, I like that, man. I like that a lot.
This upcoming weekend, I'm performing out in Iowa City for my event. Well, what is it? It's tomorrow's Thursday, so Friday. There's going to be a big fashion show, and I'll be performing most of Pink Palace nights after the fashion show in the pop-up shop, so you can come talk to me, you know, vibe with me, whatever. And then on Saturday, I will be in Des Moines. The Wildin' Outcast is going to be there, and there's going to be basically a Wildin' Out event. I know Conceited, Charlie Clips, Royce Bell, and Justina are all going to be out there. I will be on stage with them, and I'll be performing some of my music from Pink Palace nights throughout the night there. As of right now, I think that's everything that I'm booked for. Like I said in the beginning, I am my own manager, guys, right now. And I need one really bad, somebody who cares and knows that I want to be the greatest ever and actually gives a shit about it, and will make it happen. So if you're listening, I mean, you can hit me up. But I a lot of times I have events and I only know what I'm doing that week. I'm very one-track minded with a lot of stuff. So I do what I do that week, and then when the next week rolls around, a lot of times I remember, okay, I performed this weekend and I have to do this, I have to do that. So you can see me out this weekend in either Iowa City or Des Moines. And then my social media handles, Instagram is the really big thing that I'm using right now. My handle is at real REAL Jordan Burgett. So at real Jordan Burgett, Jordan JORDAN, Burgett BURGETT. That is my birth given name. That is what I go by. If you have Twitter, DeAndre Burden, DEANDRE BURDAN. Basically, my middle name's DeAndre Burden from Burgett, the BUR, and then DAN. from Jordan. Facebook, Jordan Burgett. Snapchat, I got a Snapchat right now, but I'm not giving that out to a lot of people. Like, I got a girlfriend right now, so ladies, please don't send me any wild stuff. She doesn't take kindly to that. She's getting acclimated to a lot of the attention that's coming right now, so please don't get me caught up. I love everybody. I love y'all. I know my music is mostly for y'all, but don't be sending me no wild shit. I'm sorry. I'm not single right now. I'm not single right now. So, other than that, Pink Palace Nights is available on all streaming sources, all platforms, every single one of them. Apple Music, iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, Tidal, Amazon, Google Play, is it Deezer? You can, if you're listening to the album and your friends are in the car and they're like, who is this? Tell them they can pull out Shazam. You can Shazam Pink Palace Nights now. My whole catalog is on everywhere. So you have no excuse but to right now type in my name, JORDAN, BURGETT, and enjoy it. Vibe out and enjoy this music and take a part in my story. I think I address everything right there. Yeah.
Yeah, and also I'll get all the links from you, and I'll post them on the video, and I'll post them on Instagram and Facebook as well. Instagram and Facebook are my two biggest marketing tools right now. So if you want to send me over those links, we can post them as well. I think you covered it pretty well, man. And just to kind of end things off here, I just want to say I appreciate you coming on, man. It was nice to get to know you a little bit, and it was also nice to hear your side of what this album meant. And then it also is nice to just kind of hear how intellectual you are, man. You're a man of words, man. It's pretty crazy to, like, hear you explain some things. And in my mind, it's like a picture of the exact thing that I went through in my life. So I appreciate all that. And I just want to say thank you for coming on, and I hope we stay in contact, and I'll see you out west here soon.
Thank you, bro, and I appreciate you for, reaching out to me and making this happen. This is history in the making, and I appreciate, like I said, I appreciate you, and I appreciate all the listeners that took the time to hear my long-winded ass answer all these questions with Jake. Nah, for real, I know I can talk. So that's why rapping is good for me, because I got a lot to say. So if you made it this far, yeah, I really appreciate everybody. And just in the future, I am still a human. No matter what spotlight I get to, please be patient with me as I learn in this process. And just understand, like, there's a lot of growth and development. Like I said, we evolve every day. So just make sure you're doing that too. And I will guarantee you that I'm trying to become a better man myself. So no, I appreciate everybody, and I appreciate you, Jake, for having me.
Oh yeah, man. Well, thanks so much for coming on, and it'll probably take me a couple days to get this edited and all posted up. But once it's live, I'll send you over a link, and we'll get this thing rolling. Appreciate it, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Yes, sir. Have a good night.
Yeah, you too, man.
All right. Peace.
All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed that interview as much as I did. It was really beautiful to just listen to him speak. There was some moments in time when he would start explaining something, and I would want to stop him to get more of a different question in or another explanation, but I couldn't. I wanted to let him go. He is so intellectual. He uses so many detailed words and just plays a picture for you in your head. So I'm glad that the interview turned out the way it did. It was truly beautiful. And the man has such a great talent that he has discovered. He talked about how at 15 was the first time he ever started creating music, which to me is pretty crazy. That's only 7 years ago, and look how far he's come. He's put in a lot of work and effort into this album, which he said took 2 years. 2 years. I've seen people give up on something after 2 weeks. So for him to stick with it and for him to put this much effort into something for other people is what's beautiful to me. He puts this music out for other people to enjoy, for other people to feel his emotion, and it's truly beautiful, man. I can't give this guy enough props. I'm glad that I had him on, and I'm glad that he's from my home city, representing where we're from, Cedar Rapids, Iowa, because this guy, he's gonna go a long way. I can feel it. He's got a lot of talent there. So moving on from that, I just kind of want to have one little takeaway that I had from his story, and you guys just listen there. So his story was about how he had a girl who he got really close to, met out at a bar one night in a college town, and this is the way that I interpreted it as well, so I'm sorry if I miss a few details, but this is the way that I interpreted it. So he met this girl out at a college bar, and he right away instantly thought that she was the one. They got really close. They started dating, and this girl had an ex-boyfriend that she said he would never have to worry about. Long story short, he ended up finding her with the ex-boyfriend again after dating for some time, and that broke him physically, mentally. He was broken. Everything that he ever believed in was gone, and that's crazy. At a young age, you can feel so much pain, and I've been there as well, man. I really have, and like I said earlier, once you hit rock bottom, the only way you can go is up. And he talked a little bit about how at that point in time he was pretty suicidal. He didn't feel right. He wanted to talk to a shrink or therapy, but the only thing that he could do was put it in music. When he put it into music, it gave him closure, and that's beautiful. That is truly beautiful, and I'm glad that he went that route instead of staying in this darkness. It's great to see people strive, but what's also great, and what this podcast is all about, is seeing people fight through the journey, fight through the hard times. That's why the title is Embrace the Hustle. You got to embrace it. You literally have to take the shame, take the struggle, take everything that has gone wrong and turn it into something that could become right. And I've done a lot of that in my life recently. For the longest time, I was out searching for someone else's dream, but I found mine, and I realized the wrong paths that I have taken aren't going to sink me. They are not going to sink me. I'm here every single day, showing up, doing what I got to do to become a better person. And I hope you guys do that as well. And you could definitely tell that Jordan's been doing the same as well, man. He fought out of what he thought, and what I think as well is a life-changing moment. This is, you only got one life, and when you feel something like that, you can find so much hurt and so much anxiety in a situation, and you overthink everything. I'm sure that there's times where he thought he could never trust another person again because the one person that he gave all of his trust to just betrayed him. So there's certain things like that in life that are going to come along. And what was also cool as well, I wanted to mention this before I let you guys go, is that me and him both are the same age, 22 years old. 22 years old. So we're sitting here talking, and he's explaining these things to me. And man, did I feel it. I felt the same thing. I mean, those details were hitting me like a movie that I've watched 100 times. A movie that I've watched 100 times. It is so crazy that someone can be halfway across the country and have the same feelings and emotions you've had at one point in time. So I think that's one thing you got to think about when you're down and out, and when you're in a shitty situation, when you don't feel right, that think of all the other people that have fought through it. It's not just you. This is not just about you. There's other people who have had the same feelings, the same situation. So you got to chase that dream. You got to make the best out of the shitty situations and find yourself. And once you find yourself, I think you'll find a great feeling inside your heart, and you'll start to become a better, more mature person. And I mean, I don't know it all at all. I don't know it all at all. If that makes sense, I don't know it all. I don't know it all at all. I don't even know how to say this sentence, but I know enough to know that struggles create stronger human beings. They create pain, but in the struggle, there's something that will arise that'll show you the right way with your life. So I'm going to get off here. I'm going to quit rambling. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you guys really enjoyed this episode, hit that like, hit that subscribe button at the bottom. Go show Jordan's music some love. It's at the bottom. There's a couple links. He's got a couple YouTube videos up. We'll link those in the bottom. But really go check out his iTunes music album page. Pink Palace Nights, Jordan Burgett. Search that up on iTunes, and let's get this thing rolling. But thank you guys for tuning in again, and have a good rest of your week, and I'll see you next week with another guest.